Hey, everybody. I hope and pray that you're doing well today as we come to our word from the Word. And today that word is pious. Pious. Now, sometimes that's used in a good way, reverent, godly. Now, sometimes too, we use it to think about the way that people act and kind of put on a front of being very religious, being very holy, when in all actuality, what they're putting up a show on the outside is really just showing their heart on the inside. Now, to give that example, here in Luke 18 today, as Jesus is giving some different parables, and he talks about one, he talks about a persistent widow, one who is very persistent in her prayers. But then he gets to a second one, and he gives the example of two different prayers. Look at Luke 18, verses 9 through 14. Also, he spoke this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others. Two men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself: God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I possess. And the tax collector, standing afar off, would not so much as raise his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. At the heart of this is the same message that we see throughout Scripture. Pride leads to destruction. Pride will be accounted for. Humility is what gets elevated. Pride is what gets knocked down. See, it's always the first shall be last, the last shall be first. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And so here we see this example, but lived out in the church setting, lived out in the prayer time. You think about, even though here in this instant you have this pious Pharisee that's going to say, well, I'm so glad that I'm so religious. And I look around and I think about how bad I could be, and I'm so glad I'm not as bad as this person and that person and that person. The tax collector, on the other hand, says, I wish, I desire to look up, but I can't even look up because I'm so ashamed, because I'm a sinner. That's the spirit that we all need to have. That, going back even to yesterday when we were talking about that we should say, it is my pleasure, God, to serve you. That we should have that attitude that is looking to him, the author and finisher of our faith, to say, I don't deserve any of this. So God, thank you that you allow me to even come to you in prayer. But as I think about these two, right, the Pharisees thanking God that he's not like some other sinner, and the sinner just desiring to have just a small part of a conversation with God, knowing that he is such a sinner. But I can't help but think about this. Isn't it funny how when we have that prideful attitude, that we never look around to the more religious? We never look and said, well, man, I wish I was more like Billy Graham was. I wish I was more like Paul the Apostle, or I wish I was more like Jesus. No, instead, we try to find the worst person we can find. We try to find those who we feel superior to. That, my friends, is not a religious relationship with God. That is being pious. It is being self-righteous. And it's just as Jesus said, it is being a sinner who's not going to be going home justified from your prayer. It is the one who humbles himself before God that was justified. Today, don't let pride sink in. Trust in the Lord, but also realize your place before the Lord. That we should all come as this man did and say, woe is me, for I am a sinner. God bless you, and I pray you have a great, great day.